we can bring the meditation to a close. Any questions so far? Actually, do we need, is it warm, too warm, or it's okay? It's a bit warm. If it's a bit warm, we're just going to sleep. Is anyone cold?
No.
Oh, can we switch it off? Exactly, yeah. But also maybe for the coming days if it's too cold, we can have them on in the breaks to warm it up. But then during the sessions, particularly the meditation, it's a bit disturbing, the noise, I think. So we'll try and do that. If it's cold, we can switch it off. We can switch it on during the breaks and then leave it off during the session, particularly during the meditations. Yeah, but then it's even better to have it a bit fresh in the evening. Otherwise, anyway, question.
So it's better to do as much meditation in the morning and not so much in the evening?
In general, at home, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, to keep a brief answer. Of course, if we're having a normal daily schedule, and assuming many people work, then probably, if you're going to do a daily practice, the morning is the best because it's where you're most fresh, you're most quiet, and it's a good way to start the day. Usually at the end of the day, a busy day, tired, maybe responsibilities in the evening, and so maybe don't work so well. As a generalisation, if we don't have such a busy life and we've got more free time, then I would suggest to do the meditations at the time of the day where you are most alert and active. I mean, for me personally, I find I'm more, assuming of course I'm not having a busy working life, but I find that actually I'm more alert sort of late afternoon, early evening. So for me, like I'm in retreat, I tend to do more the Shamatha then than early in the morning. I'm a little bit drowsy, a bit slow to get going early in the morning. So you can, everyone's a bit different for that. But assuming if you have a normal daily schedule, then probably the best in the morning. And then if you wanted to do some meditation in the evening, more active meditation, like Vipashyana or compassion or so forth. So Shamatha in the morning, if you want to do like two things a day, sessions a day, great. Do the Shamatha in the morning, and then the more active in the evening. You'll find probably works better.
I also requested the 9-round breath. Maybe you would be able to demonstrate for us one place.
The 9-round breathing exercise?
Yeah, because I saw a few versions.
Well, there are many versions. We can do maybe a simple one. And maybe also later Maya can do a simple one as well. Just a very simple one without too much elaborate. But we'll do a little bit later. We'll introduce that.
Regarding the preparation, sometimes I get so distracted with the 3 breaths, I don't really even feel them, It doesn't really help with the speech.
You get distracted when you're coming into the meditation, or?
Yeah, and the rest of the meditation, of course. But sometimes the 3 breaths doesn't really help.
Yeah. Well, then I think on occasions where you are very much distracted is just stay with the preparation, because there's no point in like saying, did the 3 breaths, tick, 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 let's go, when you're not ready. So this preparation, take as much time as you need, and you may find in some sessions your mind is then you may need to just prepare the whole session, but that's time well spent. On other sessions your mind is more quiet, then you can prepare quickly and get to the actual meditation. So I would really just, if the mind is very agitated like that, just stay with the breath as a sort of a grounding. And if it's really not working, then the last resort is, if you're completely negative, agitated, or you're falling asleep and you can't fix it, then don't keep meditating. But that's not the first thing. It's not like it's agitated, I'm going to stop, or I'm dull, I'm going to stop. But yes, there's no point in continuing in meditation if your mind is boiling with some negative thoughts or you're falling asleep. So then we need to, in the meditation text it says as a last step, get up, go for a walk, splash some water on your face, do some exercise, and then come back again. So we've got the whole range of possibilities there.
Can you explain a bit about the breath, how the system works?
How the system works.
Yeah, when I do Shamatha, I prepare.
Yeah.
How I breathe.
How you breathe.
Yeah.
In Shamatha, we are not trying to do anything with the breath. There are practices like pranayama, where you do a lot of breath manipulation work. And of course, even in Buddhism, particularly when we start talking the Tantra Vajrayana, then there is also some very subtle breath work, but that's more to do with sort of subtle energies. But here in this practice, we're not interested in trying to do anything with the breath or visualizing the breath going up and down and so forth.
I take a breath. Where I take it in the body?
Don't worry. Just let the
here.
No, just don't focus on that at all. Just let breathe as if you're fast asleep. When you're fast asleep, you're not thinking about where you're breathing. So when you're engaging in other activities, you're not thinking about that. So don't think about that here. It's just let the body breathe itself. Just let the body breathe itself. We're not trying to breathe in here or here or here or do anything. Just whatever the body naturally does, let it do that. If, of course, we have very bad breathing habits, then as a separate exercise, we can do some breath work to improve the way we breathe, but that's not here. We don't want to do that in this meditation. Okay. A couple of things. So we'll just look at qualities and objects, and that'll be enough for this evening. So remember, in this Shamatha practice, we are cultivating a calm, clear, focused mind. So generally in the meditation texts, there are two qualities that we are cultivating. The first quality we're cultivating is stability. Meaning a stable mind, being able to focus on an object without becoming distracted. So the fault we're trying to overcome here, of course, is distraction. But not only do we want a stable mind, in other words, to be able to focus on an object without becoming distracted, we want to be able to focus on that object in a very clear way, so clarity. And so the fault we're trying to overcome there is, of course, dullness, mind getting very dull and drowsy. And these are the two qualities that are mentioned in the meditation texts. But I always like to add a third quality that normally you don't see in the text, but something that we really need to pay attention to in the modern world. that is relaxation. And a fault we're trying to overcome, of course, is tension. And that's what we tend to do in our daily life. Whenever we focus on anything, we tense. We naturally tense. And unfortunately, that sort of works a little bit. When we focus with tension, we can focus a bit. But we know from our own experience, if we focus on something with a lot of tension for a longer time, we become completely exhausted and often become very agitated. So this is not a sustainable method of focus. Now in our daily life, we're either alert and tense, or we're relaxed and dull. So what we're trying to do here is combine those two. We're trying to be relaxed and alert at the same time. So the very first thing we need to do in this practice is cultivate relaxation. And it's, I think, where many people, when they're beginning to meditate, they have a lot of difficulties. And the reason is this, is that we're bringing this tension that we have in our daily life into meditation practice. And we're trying to focus on an object like the breath, and we get distracted, and we think the reason I got distracted is I didn't focus hard enough, so we clamp down harder and harder and harder and harder. We get agitated, and it really has a lot of problems. So as a beginner, I think one of the main reasons we have difficulties, we're simply too tight, we're too tense, we're trying too hard. The very first thing we need to do in meditation, certainly in Shamatha practice, is relax, 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 relax. So if all you can do over these 10 days is learn how to relax a little bit, the body and the mind, success. Because without relaxation, there's no way we're going to develop any sustainable stability and clarity. So we need to emphasize this order. And certainly that's something I admire as well. We'll be emphasizing, particularly in the next couple of days. Relax, 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 relax. Relax the body, relax the mind. The more we relax the body and the mind, the better any practice will be. So that's the first emphasis in Shamatha practice, is relaxation. And again, it's not something you often see in the meditation text, because I think historically people tended to be very relaxed. In fact, too relaxed. And so often the instruction you see in the meditation text is firmly tighten your focus on the object. And we go, yeah, I can do that. And we clamp down. And then when we get distracted, we think we got distracted because I didn't clamp down hard enough, so we clamp down harder and harder and harder and harder. Even to the point where some people complain about getting headaches from meditating. Just way too tight, way too tense. We need to relax, 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 relax. So that's the qualities. And now very briefly, objects, and then we'll slowly wrap up this evening session. So what object should we use in this practice? The general recommendation, of course, for this practice is use the object that works best for you. Having said that, many Buddhist traditions tend to emphasize using the breath as the object. And for many of us in the modern world, the breath is probably going to be the best object to use for this practice. One of the big advantages with the breath, of course, is that many of us in the modern world are caught up in obsessive compulsive thinking all day long, blah, 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 all day long. If we're focused on the breath, that gets us out of the discursive blah, blah mind into the body, so that's a good start. And most of our thinking is about the past and the future. And if we're living in the past and the future, that's a source of a lot of unhappiness. The sensations of breath only happen in the present moment. So by focusing on them, we get out of our discursive mind into the body, and we get out of the past and the future into the present moment. and the breath is relatively easy to focus on compared to other objects. So for many of us, that will be the best object to use. And we're going to use 3 variations of the breath practice in this retreat, which we're going to introduce tomorrow. The first one, which we did a little bit of in that meditation, was called the full body breath practice. And that is simply noticing sensations of the breath anywhere in the body, any sensations associated with the breathing. So this is very good for helping to work with relaxation. And then another variation we'll introduce tomorrow morning is focusing on the area of the abdomen, the rising and lowering of the abdomen. So that's a fairly large area of focus, but we're bringing the attention down here. So this is particularly good for improving stability of attention. And then a little bit later tomorrow we're going to introduce the practice of focusing at the entrance of the nostrils. So here we're bringing the attention up, and it's a much smaller focus here. So this is particularly good for improving the clarity of attention. So these are the 3 variations of the breath practice that we're going to work with in this retreat. Especially, we're going to spend a lot of time on this tomorrow. Then we're also going to be using the mind itself as the object of shamatha practice. And what we mean here, of course, is observe the mind and whatever's coming up in the mind, thoughts, emotions, memories, images, and so forth. Many of you will find this much more challenging than focusing on the breath, but this has enormous benefits for us in the modern world. Because many of us in the modern world are the slaves of our own mind. Many of us are often tormented and overwhelmed by our thoughts, emotions, memories, and so forth. By doing this practice, not only will we be able to cultivate a calm, clear, focused mind, but one of the side benefits of this practice is we'll become, instead of being the slaves of our own mind, we'll become the masters of our own mind. And I'll talk more about that day after tomorrow. And then lastly, we're going to use awareness as the object, but awareness sometimes is called shamatha with no object, because what we're doing here is that in the breath practice, of course, we're aware of the sensations of the breath. In the mind practice, we're aware of our thoughts, emotions, and so on. And here, we're turning awareness in upon itself and just knowing that we're aware. Many people find this even more challenging than focusing on the mind, not because it's complicated, but because it's too simple. It's too simple. Mm-hmm. Because this basically involves doing nothing. We don't know how to do nothing. We always want to do something. Often when this is explained, people go, yeah, but what am I supposed to do? Tell me what do I have to do? Doing is the problem. Stop doing. Be. Just be. Just know you're aware. That's it. And that also will help us to cultivate a calm, clear, focused mind, like any shamatha practice. But one of the big side benefits of this is that we'll be able to have, as a result of this, a very open, spacious mind in daily life, rather than this very tight, constricted, reactive mind. We'll be able to have this open, spacious stillness as our default mode in daily life. Much better. And I'll talk, of course, we'll be working on this in a couple of days' time. So these are the 3 objects that we're going to use. All 3 have unique benefits for us in the modern world. So we're going to learn and practice each one of those 3 in the coming days. Any questions about objects?
Considering to learn these objects last year in the past, if you recommend maybe sticking to the object that you already chose?
Well, I would recommend to go through, because the first few days we're going to be going through them again, just to go through them again, just to repeat and become familiar and make sure we haven't forgotten how to do the practice. And then maybe even you can go a little bit deeper into those practices because you're familiar with them. So.
But I'm just asking because we were exploring the ones that we gravitate towards.
So, yeah. Sorry?
Shouldn't we?
Well, but here again, yes, when we go home, eventually to pick one, but each one of these is very helpful. So it's very good to be very familiar with every one of these variations. So here we're getting an opportunity to become more familiar with it again. So even though maybe if you last year you decide, oh, I'm doing this now, and you haven't been really doing much of this in the last year, then maybe now is a good time to do them again to become more familiar with them because they are very helpful, each one of those.
Yeah, maybe I'm jumping ahead of myself, but how in daily life, how do we pick which practice or which object?
Yeah, this is coming later.
Alright.
I'll talk about that later.
For me, sometimes I feel that the breathing concentration tends to be a bit like repression.
Repression.
Yeah.
Repressing of what?
Mind fear.
Of
Mind.
thoughts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, if we're trying to suppress or repress, that's not going to work. And so what we're going to see tomorrow is a lot of instructions about, if we're focusing on the breath, what to do with these thoughts and emotions. So of course, repressing or suppressing is not helpful, but instruction will come tomorrow. Okay. So here now, what I'd like to do is to finish up is that I mentioned that in the posture, we've got a couple of options. We can sit upright either with the cross-legged, meditation stool, or maybe use a chair. But another option actually, particularly if we've got back problems or we're sick or so forth, and we find sitting upright even in a chair is difficult, then one option we can use for meditation is what's called the Shavasana posture, the corpse posture from yoga. So that's where we're lying flat on our back, the feet slightly apart, the arms slightly away from the body, palms facing upwards. And this can be very helpful in meditation on those occasions where sitting upright, either you've got problems with the back, or you've done a lot of meditating through the day or something, you have knee problems and you find sitting upright is painful, then we can use that Shavasana posture. Also, we can use this as a transition to sleep. That often when at the end of the day, we get home, busy day, lots of things happening, still things churning over in our mind, maybe a lot of tension in the body, we go to bed and we're tossing, turning, and we can't get to sleep. So then what we can do when we go to bed is go into this Shavasana posture, and then on every out-breath, you just release any thoughts in the mind and release any tension in the body. Just keep releasing, 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 releasing. And then you do that as long as you can maintain some alertness. When you notice you're getting a bit drowsy, then you mentally know my meditation's finished, and then you physically move out of that posture into whatever posture you use for sleep. And so that can be a very good transition into sleep as well. So what we're going to do each evening to finish the evening is to learn this posture, to learn how to use this posture in meditation. Because now, if we've never used that posture for meditation, and you're probably going to find this tonight and maybe for a few nights, as soon as you lie down there, you get very drowsy. And that's because now we have this mental association that horizontal body means sleep. But if you do this, and it's a particular posture, if you do this day after day after day, after some days, you're going to build up an association that this posture, even though it's horizontal, doesn't mean sleep, it means meditate. And so you'll find that it'll become easier and easier to meditate. And so I particularly like this posture when I'm doing a retreat. If I've been sitting upright some hours during the day, maybe the knees are getting a bit sore or back's getting a bit tired, then towards the end of the day I tend to use the last couple of sessions of my retreat every day. I use this posture for meditating. And I find you can be very relaxed, but also at the same time be very alert. But before we jump to that meditation, I'd like to read a little bit about that posture. So for this first half of the retreat, I'm going to be reading a little bit from a book by Alan Wallace called Attention Revolution, and it's the book I really recommend for the Shamatha practice. He describes all of these practices that we're going to be doing in the first 5 days of this retreat. So let's have a look what he says about this particular Shavasana posture. So this is on page 19 of his book. He says, mindfulness of breathing is universally emphasized for those who are especially prone to compulsive thinking. As the 5th century Buddhist master Asanga comments, so he's quoting Asanga from the 5th century, he says, if involuntary thoughts particularly dominate your behaviour, then focus the mind in mindfulness of exhalation and inhalation of the breath. So now back to Alan Wallace, he says, since nearly everyone living in the modern world is coping with an overload of thinking, remembering and planning, this may be just what the doctor ordered, a gentle prescription for soothing and healing overworked bodies and minds. Although Buddhism generally encourages cross-legged meditation, the Buddha encouraged his followers to practice in any of 4 postures,